I am in Corbin, Kentucky, and I am outside of the Harland Sanders Cafe and Museum. This is the original restaurant that Colonel Sanders opened here, and this is also the very first place I ever live vlogged, I guess, at an individual place. I'd made one on the trip before that, and this was the first individual place. If you now look up that video, it's horrible. So I'm here to make a better one. Let's go inside. Harland Sanders, originally from Henryville, Indiana, by the way, moved here to Corbin, Kentucky in 1930, and he started a service station that was across the street from this building. There was a dining table at the gas station, so he got some cooking and restaurant experience that made him quite popular in the region. In 1937, he built the original Sanders Cafe there, but it was destroyed 2 years later by a fire. Afterwards, he built this building across the street in 1940 and opened the new Harland Sanders Cafe that also came with a motel. His business did very well here along Route 25, and his food became legendary in the area and across the country as he operated this cafe for 16 years. In 1956, he sold the cafe and started franchising under the name Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the Harland Sanders Cafe became a KFC franchise, as it still is today. This part of the building was added on when it became a KFC. Here's a scale model of the property as it appeared in 1940. You can see the cafe, which still stands, and the old Sanders Court Motel, which no longer stands and is now the parking lot. This is the KFC where you can order your food. That is a Colonel Sanders weather vane. That is awesome. And here they have a bust of the great Colonel and some KFC memorabilia. Some vintage photos and postcards. And some of the original silverware used in the cafe. That is some of the original china used at the cafe. It's not this fanciful anymore. And there's a menu. That is a 300-pound barrel that contained Colonel Sanders' basic formula for chicken that was shipped here en masse in the 50s. Here's an exhibit on Colonel Harland Sanders. While he wasn't a military colonel, he gained the honorary colonel title from Governor Ruby Laffoon back in 1935 because his gas station and cafe was so legendary. Colonel Sanders did run for state senate in 1951, but his campaign was unsuccessful. A clip-on string tie that was worn by a waitress here back in the day, some old KFC boxes, and a Czechoslovakian moosehead mug used by Harland Sanders' father for shaving. That's a somewhat disturbing Colonel Sanders Halloween mask from the 60s. And here is one of his iconic white suits. That's pretty awesome. And they also have his eagle head cane here. They also have a statue of the Colonel that you can sit down and hang out with. That is a 9-foot tall Colonel Sanders highway sign that was used for the Kannapolis, North Carolina KFC. This sign attesting to the Supreme Court's definition of goodwill sits at the entrance to the old cafe dining room. And this is what the original Harland Sanders Cafe dining room is like. As this is perhaps the most sacred historic site of the Bluegrass State, it is on the National Register of Historic Places. I believe this is where the original counter was located, and there's a vintage cash register. They display some of the newly acquired artifacts in here. There's a cigarette machine right outside the Colonel's office. This is the restored office of Colonel Sanders, where he did all of his administrative work for this location and began to franchise out, starting one of the largest fast food empires in the world in this room. And they have a statue of him in here. And his chicken is so finger looking good, he ate off his thumb and his index finger. And this is what the office looks like from the outside window. That Wurlitzer there is pretty cool. This sign titled The Hard Way which is original to the cafe, is pretty interesting. And this is the restored kitchen of the Harland Sanders Cafe. This is the very room where, over the years, Colonel Sanders and his cooks came up with the 11 herbs and spices recipe to create the delicious holy chicken sent from God himself. And here's my chicken in the kitchen where it was originally innovated. This is a model motel room that was here in the cafe to advertise what the rooms at the adjacent Sanders Motor Court was like, a marketing strategy in hopes of getting people to stay the night here. It is a very classic motel room, and I do wish the Sanders Motor Court was still there for you to stay in. This is a TV advertisement set for the Colonel's attempt at a country ham breakfast. It wasn't nearly as successful as the chicken. So that was the Harland Sanders Cafe and Museum. Always a fantastic stop that I highly recommend. But there's one more Colonel Sanders related site in Corbin. Right in the downtown historic district is Sanders Park. At its center is a statue of Colonel Sanders himself. Even though it took 85 years from the time he first moved here, the town finally erected a statue of the man who made Corbin famous in 2015. This statue was delayed for many years, but luckily it was finally built in a beautiful plaza space. There are some historical signs around telling the story of Colonel Sanders, which is very interesting. They do point out a time when he got in a gunfight with a rival here in Corbin, who he caught painting over one of his signs. With this visit to the statue, I do believe I have completed the Colonel Sanders KFC Historic Sites Odyssey, which includes visits to his birthplace in Indiana, his grave in Louisville, his car at historic auto attractions in Roscoe, Illinois, the cafe here in Corbin, the first KFC franchise in Utah, and his post-KFC restaurant and home in Shelbyville, Kentucky. And I have videos at all of those locations if you're interested in checking those out. There's an Abbey Road style mural of the Colonel and chickens that he is presumably leading to the slaughterhouse. And there's an old locomotive. Thanks for watching.